Joining us here on Real Agriculture now, we have Mike Kruger of the Money Farm. And Mike, we've had 3 consecutive record crops around the world. Do you see any way of supplies coming back in balance with demand without having a major weather problem in the world?
I don't know that we need a major weather problem, but we need to see production back off some. And really, we've never had 2 record crops in a row. Now we've had 3. And what that's done is mask the steady and ongoing increase in demand. So we didn't slow demand down even when prices were at all-time record highs. So I think demand continues to grow. And without record production, then we see things tighten up, and I think that means eventually prices have to start to move.
So do we see production in 2016 come back even without a big weather problem?
I think we do for a couple of reasons. I think that in many parts of the world, including the U.S., we're seeing the returns per acre now break even at best, in a lot of cases negative, and that's the same in other parts of the world. I think that has to mean that we see either reduced acreage or reduced crop inputs, and maybe some of both.
Okay, so farmers cutting back on marginal land, or where do we see production?
I think farmers will cut back on marginal land. I think we'll see some of the land that worked when prices were high, doesn't work at all when prices were low, go back maybe to grass or idle. And secondly, I just don't think we'll see the extensive use of chemicals, fertilizer, herbicides that producers have been using to enhance yields when profits were very good. I don't think we'll see the same level used when there are no profits.
Okay. What about some of the impact that currency is having? Right now, farmers in Brazil, for instance, are seeing almost the highest or possibly the highest soybean price they've ever seen. What kind of incentive do they see?
You know, the dollar has been at its highest level in 6 or 7 or 8 years. That absolutely makes it better for farmers outside of this country because almost all of the major commodities are traded in dollars. You mentioned Brazil. Their soybean prices to a farmer in Brazil are every bit as good today as when they were $14, $15 a few years ago, even though they're $8 to the U.S. producer. So that certainly has helped them in terms of income. I think they are fighting more significant problems in terms of available credit and high input costs than our producers are.
Okay. What about China? How does some of the changes that we're seeing in China impact the outlook?
China has artificially raised their corn prices over the years, so now their prices to their producers are like $10 a bushel. They have enormous surpluses of corn on hand. The government's decided they've got to change those policies. I think that means that at least for a few years we see their imports of feed grains reduced simply because they've got to work down these big reserves. Long term, I think it's just a matter of rebalancing. I don't think it's going to make a great deal of difference long term. Short term, it could.
So over what time frame do we see this tightening balance sheet for most of the world crops?
You know, I think we'll start to see it in 2015, 16. I think even with good weather, we're going to see crop production back off to some extent. Demand continues to expand. Of course, weather then factors in. If you have a major problem someplace, it'll happen virtually overnight, and it's just too early. And, the first weather problem, of course, could happen in Brazil or Argentina, but really we're talking late January, February before the market would be very concerned about that.
Okay. One area where there is a weather problem right now is in India, which is relevant for farmers in Western Canada.
India's monsoon has been very, very poor. They've got really the beginnings of a significant drought across major production areas in India, and particularly their pulse crop, peas, lentils, I think is on the verge of being sharply reduced. That's a very staple crop in India. Prices for those commodities are going higher. I think if those prices continue to escalate by spring, when especially Western Canada producers start to plant, I suspect we could see a pretty significant increase in pea and lentil planted acreage in any place on earth where they can plant them.
All right.